Okay, we've moved on to putting the strips on. So as you can see, we got a variation of colors going here. But the very first thing that I did is I came to the bottom of the trailer, I put one strip on, and I put this construction adhesive on that I'm using. It's Loctite PL8X Premium Fast Grab. And the reason I'm using this is because the tactness of it, it grabs that stick and holds it in place while I'm moving on to the next thing. Now when I put my first stick down there, I put a level on it, make sure it was all nice and level, and I put a couple of nails in to hold that in place while things dry so they don't move around, and as I'm stacking, things aren't getting pressed down and everything is staying straight and consistent. So I'm just doing that with my first strip. Once I get on up and this is dry, I can come back and pull these nails out. Now I cut my strips a little bit longer than the cabin, so I can take my flush cut trim router bit and I can come back and I'll just trim that off right even with the cabin. Then I'm going to come back with a round over bit, and then we're going to put a nice little bevel edge on it so we have some nice smooth transitions. Now as you can see, I use my Loctite PL Premium, and I went up the side wall here up to this first rafter or this first spar, and I went all the way down with it so that I can attach my strips to the cabin itself. Now once this adheres, this is coming off. It's going to be permanent, and that's the way we want it to be. We don't want it moving around. These strips will flex with the trailer movement, but it's not going to come undone from the trailer. So hope you enjoy watching this as we're on the final stretch here, putting the strips on. We're going to go up to here, and then we're going to go around. We're going to do the hatch, and we're going to work towards the center. That way we're using our best strips, our more select strips for the pretty on the front and the visible areas, and the strips that we're not so proud of, they're going to go right on top where you're not always eyeballing those and looking at them. So that's the method behind the madness. So enjoy. Okay, we're back at it. We're putting strips on the camper. I've got them done on the front side of the camper. I'll show you pictures of that. We've got it done on the hatch area, and we are closing up the last 60 inches on top of the camper here. So Michelle is over here where our strips are, and she's laying out the color pattern that she would like. And all I'm doing is I'm grabbing the strips, putting glue on, and then I'm placing the strips in order all the way up till we get to the fan right there by the camera. And then we're going to close up the gap. Just want to give you a little visual of what we're doing here. Same thing you've been seeing. Putting the glue down the strip. Selecting the best side of the strip. We've got our construction adhesive, and we put that down on our spars. We just add our strips. It's just a repetitive process. Been at this thing for hours and hours of just laying strips. We probably have close to 400 strips just on the roof install. So that equates to about 10 1x6s once you strip those down. I got a foam pad over here on the galley counter so I don't hurt my knees. Getting old and getting fat and getting heavy, and my knees can't do what they used to do back when I was younger and skinnier and lighter. So now we are down to one of the spars, and what I like to do is make sure that as I reach the spars that I'm still even all the way across, because sometimes you can press harder on one end than the other, or one end will come a little bit looser than the other and it won't hold its place. Like this right here is trying to break away a little bit, and I have to pull those back into place, and I have to look and make sure that I'm even all the way across the spars. Now if I get to where it doesn't want to behave itself, I take a nail, and right here where I'm going to finish the ends out, I just put a nail right through one of the strips, just kind of tack it into place. And apparently I've got to get a nail, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm using these little bitty nails so they don't leave such a big gaping hole whenever you go to pull them out. But I just go right here, make sure I'm in line. And just tack one of these into the meaty sides. Just enough to hold it in place. That looks good. Now don't worry about leaving a hole whenever you get ready to pull these nails out. If you just come back and wipe over this with a little bit of water, those holes will swell up and the wood will cover that hole back up. If you've ever built a cedar strip canoe, that's one of the tricks that you'll find out. And I got one right here in the middle. Need to hold that. It's trying to bow up a little bit. So I just put a strip right there in the middle, or put a nail right there in the middle. Just tack it down to where it just holds. You don't have to drive it home. We started this project back in the middle of November, and I said this was going to be a winter project. But I think the air condition was running when we started, and I believe we're going to have to turn the air condition on before we finish. We have worked on this project almost every day, and I figured that whenever we first started this project, we could probably build it for maybe $2,000 to $3,000 in about 200 hours. Man, was I way off. We're going to do a video. I've been keeping track of all the records and all the receipts of everything I've been spending for this project, and we're going to summarize this build in a future video, and I'm going to go over the cost. I haven't been tracking the hours, but I can give you a good estimate that it's not been a 200-hour project. It's probably not even been a 300-hour project. I have literally spent every Saturday from middle of November, and here we are at the 3rd week of March working on this thing from sun up to sundown, and then every afternoon after I get off work for at least 2 hours just trying to get a little further down the road on it. But Michelle and I was sitting in the camper watching TV. That's right, we have a TV in our camper now. And under the fan, eating our lunch Saturday. And last night I tell Michelle, I was like, do you realize that what we have built is an adult version of a, what was it?
A fort.
A fort. You know how you would be as a kid in the living room and you throw a bunch of blankets over the chairs and so you could sit down and watch TV? That's basically what we just built. A $6,000 fort. Okay, we are doing sanding, and we are sanding, and we are sanding. For the next day or so, we're going to be sanding. Right now, I started off with the 60 grit on the orbital sander, and basically all we're trying to do with the 60 grit is take the saw marks out of the boards and smooth the edges of the boards so that they all meet together and become one continuous surface. That's all we're trying to do. Now, after the 60 grit, we're going to step it down to the 120 grit, and we're going to start sanding again and try to get this rough marks out. We're going to step it down to 220, down to 500, and then we'll probably end up with a very fine grit, and we're going to try to get this down to a polish. Now, after this video series of the strips, we're going to we'll be moving on to the final fiberglass. We're going to step you through and show you what we're going to do to finish this project up. And if you've enjoyed this so far, following us along as we've done this build, we invite you to subscribe, follow us along as we finish out this project and move to our next project, and see also what we're doing with our homestead and with our gardening and raising out our animals. And we've hoped you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.